Oh, I am. Sorry. Are we live? Oh, cool. Sorry. Hi. Thank you guys for being patient. I apologize. We had a technical issue when we were supposed to go live at 1 o'clock, and our amazing back-end team have managed to sort around it, but it took a little bit of time. It was the first time we had a rather bizarre error come up. So apologies for the delay. Welcome. This is our first Facebook Live for 2019. I hope you had an amazing festive season and Happy New Year. We want to continue to keep you in the know and on the go this year. So just a few reminders before we get started. We're going to be live every second week this year. So make sure to check out our events page on our Facebook account. That will tell you all the upcoming events that are coming. If you click interested, you'll get sent reminders directly to your phone like an hour before we go live and then when we are live. Please also sign up to our weekly email newsletters. They are free. They are jam-packed full of amazing content across all of Asia. So we'll put the link in the description for you to sign up for that. And finally, feel free to ask us any questions. Send us some love and likes. Share it if you think friends would be interested. So thank you. So today we want to find out more about the latest school trends happening within the Chinese education system. And we've been joined, we're very lucky to be joined by Stephanie from Wright Wright Education. So hi Stephanie,
hi.
Welcome. Just arrived back from the UK.
Yes,
So
very jet lagged, so apologies.
So we're really grateful to have her here. So Wright Wright is a education consultancy company, and we wanted to further explore about the private and international school scene that's happening within China. Sorry, I think my laptop was making some noises. So thank you, Stephanie. I wondered if you could start by just doing a bit of an introduction of Wright Wright Education for us.
Yes. So we are, as you said, an international education consultancy. We do focus on Hong Kong international schools,
Yep.
UK independent schools, so that's your
Cool.
boarding schools as well as sort of day schools, London schools, and then quite excitingly China, which is obviously a very hugely growing market. It's sort of it's very exciting anyway. So that's primarily where we focus our consultancy services.
Okay.
And typically what we do, my business partner and I, Juliet, we're both actually former teachers ourselves, having worked in Hong Kong international schools and actually local schools. So I'd like to feel that we do sort of do know what we're talking about. But we essentially work with parents, work with corporates as well, advising families about their child's education. So whether it's sort of looking at, that sort of all-important kindergarten, am I going to get into the right primary school, or we're talking about sort of the path to, UK independent schools, and then of course university, which is essentially most families' sort of end goal. So we cover sort of all aspects of education, and typically, yes, within that sort of independent international school field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And how did you and Juliet meet?
We met, it must be about 3 years ago, actually through Emma Sherrod, who I used to work with quintessentially. And Jules actually sort of ended up giving me advice when we first I started out there, and we sort of stayed in touch all along. And then Jules was sort of advising parents anyway, had got multiple sort of friends, children in Eton, Harrow, Winchester, that sort of thing in the UK, and I was obviously doing a lot of Hong Kong based schools. And it sort of just happened one day. We had a coffee at the Mo Bar, and sort of there it was. And actually we were laughing about names. So we were sort of thinking, well, we need to go something quite sort of British. And obviously my surname is Wright. And then Jules was like, well, actually, my maiden name is Wright. So we were like, nobody's going to believe us, but actually, yes, it was meant to be. So there we go.
So there's Wright.
That's how we were born.
That's so cool. And setting up in Hong Kong, you guys were based here, as you say. You've got that UK experience.
Yes.
And then the Hong Kong experience, and now this Chinese market, which is pretty exciting. So that's why we've got Wright Wright here today, because of their kind of expertise, and we wanting to really understand a bit of the trends and what's going on within the Chinese education market. So what we'll do today is we're going to split up the chat into 3 main areas of focus. So we're going to cover just a general overview of Chinese education. We'll then chat a bit about private and international schooling in China, and then we'll finish with key trends and innovations in the Chinese education scene. So just a reminder, you can ask us questions along the way, and then we can get some feedback from Stephanie. So just to kind of touch on the general overview of Chinese education, I just wondered if you could give us a bit of a background of what that looks like currently in China.
Very vast. I mean, look, a general overview in terms of, we're looking at sort of local school system. You know, children typically start school around 6 years old, do approximately sort of 6 years of primary school. They obviously do kindergarten, but that's sort of more of a private system, kind of like Hong Kong. Then they go into secondary school. They have sort of 3 to 4 years, again, roughly, in their sort of secondary school system. Then they sort of sit there, sort of, I guess they put them GCSEs, they do their Zhongkao, it's probably terrible Chinese, apologies, which then will sort of essentially stream them, and they can figure out which sort of secondary system they're going to go in, sort of vocational, a bit more academic. Which of course then leads to the Gaokao, which is obviously this sort of the pinnacle of their schooling system. And of course, you know, if you know the Chinese system, Gaokao is obviously notoriously difficult exam to sit, one of the most difficult, equivalent of, say, SAT's A-level, so notoriously difficult. And it's something that I think a lot of parents, sort of our generation, have had to sit, knowing how much work and the pressure and stress to sit these exams, to then be allowed to access to these top universities in China. And a lot of them sort of, you know, want a different option, different route for their child, because they know the sort of stress that they went through and don't want their children to go through it, essentially. And of course, then also they are considering overseas universities. So
that opens them up. I think there's isn't there it's really interesting kind of new generation that are coming through who have a bit more money. They've also travelled a bit, and so they are open to a different education system as well, and they're the ones that are really driving some of the change happening within China.
Well, it's interesting, you know, we parents, our clients, parents, you know, we have Hong Kong Chinese parents, we have expats, and then we have mainland Chinese who are either in China, or they're doing business back and forth, or they're based in Hong Kong. And actually, it's interesting that the parents who are coming in from mainland China, they're the parents who typically are requesting for, you know, a well-rounded,
not so
curriculum, not rote system. You know, just they want their children to be happy. Which, of course, as an educator, you know, somebody who's sort of, you know, started off caring for children. You know, that was, you know, both Juliet and I, that was our, you know, day-to-day, our passion was to make sure that the children are, you know, happy, they're looked after. Is music to our ears, because you want parents to come and say, I just want my child to be happy and go to school that you know that suits them. And of course, you know, a big part of what we do is to make sure that the child is placed, and a family, because it's part, you know, it's not just the child, it's the family, are in the right school. That's key here.
Cool. Perfect. And then comparing Chinese schooling, so we've touched on a little bit, to other countries in Asia. Are there any main things that kind of stand up as a point of difference?
You know, I think Asia in general, let's talk about, say, you know, we've got our sort of Singapores, our Koreas, our Japan, you know, these sort of, you know, highly developed countries, you know, large GDP, you know, these countries typically have a similar sort of system. You know, it's a lot of, sometimes, rote learning. A lot of importance is placed on these testing results, great academic results. And we're talking about the local system here, not any sort of international schools. And what you do find is that students do, you know, they are higher achievers. You know, if you look at any PISA test, as you know, always scoring top scores. China's coming in at sort of number 2, I think, recently. Though I would say similarities there. What I would also say in terms of similarities is that if there's a new sort of element to the PISA test, it's sort of, I think it's the well-being or something you know, along those lines. And what then you also find is that all the students who are coming from these countries are actually scoring very low on this sort of well-being score. Whereas, say, the UK and the US is maybe a little bit down in terms of, you know, reading, writing, maths, you know. But then it's the general well-being is a lot higher. So it's interesting to sort of see those trends. You know, it's quite similar. Obviously, yes, you know, different countries have specific sort of you know, curriculum in terms of you know what the government want them to learn. Obviously, I know sometimes that the sort of China gets a bad rep, you know, often for their sort of Chinese curriculum, but education changes every day.
Yeah.
You know, Ministry of Education reform is going on every day. You can barely catch up with sort of what's
Yeah.
going on. So, you know, they are striving to, you know, bring in that more of sort of, you know, inquiry-based learning, critical thinking, collaboration, which you don't typically see in, again, a lot of these Asian countries.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But, you know, they are moving forward, which is a positive sign.
That's really cool to know as well, because I think it is very important.
Yeah.
And we have such high suicide you know, stats with elder children or whatever within Asia, because I think of so much pressure put on that. So it's great to know that this is kind of starting to change and filter through. So cool. Welcome, guys. Just to remind you, we're Little Steps Live, and we're chatting with Stephanie Wright from Wright Wright Education today, just learning a bit more about the Chinese education system, some of the trends and what's really happening, because it's a very exciting market, especially within the education scene. So we've just kind of touched on a bit of a general overview. But I wanted to move into private and international schooling within China. So just a reminder that you can ask us questions along the way, so feel free to do that. What are the developments in private and international schools in China?
I mean, where do I begin? It's very, it's very exciting. You know, and I think, again, you know, every time you go on, you know, some kind of website, certainly even on LinkedIn, you know, you're seeing another school is breaking ground. In a tier 3 city, you know, in the middle of nowhere, and you think, okay, well, this sort of, you know, beautiful, you know, independent school from the UK based in Devon has this international school, you know, in China. But it is very exciting because we have established schools such as Harrow, which of course, you know, are all over Asia. You have Dulwich College, you know, you have Wellington, you know, Marlborough's obviously you have that in sort of near Singapore, Malaysia. And more are coming. You know, if you look at, I think the sort of the key 3 words for you, Greater Bay Area. This is a sort of
Greater Bay Area. Okay.
This is the sort of buzzword, and in general in business in Hong Kong, everyone's talking about GBA. But in terms of education, wow, it's exciting. You know, we're talking about obviously Shenzhen. You're talking about Zhuhai and Guangzhou. So you know, essentially Hong Kong and all those sort of 3 you know, southern China area. In terms of
new train,
I know me neither. But I just got my APEC card, which is like, can I freely go?
So it's got to have to go and do.
But it's exciting because you have schools. You know, Wickham Abbey, for example, is in Zhuhai. I mean, what a brand name. You have Whittle School, which we've been doing a lot of sort of work with them in terms of when they've recently opened, obviously opening in September 2019. You know, you have Merchiston, which is a boarding school in the UK, and they have boarding in Shenzhen, which is very exciting. But I mean, lots and lots are opening. So you know, Harrow looking British, for somewhere, King's Canterbury. But it's, you know, it seems like it's never ending. So, I mean, those are in terms of developments. I mean, when it stops, who knows? I think what will be interesting, certainly in the business sense, is how successful these schools are in terms of, you know, admissions, you know, enrollment, and then further down the line, success. You know, we can have, and we call them brands. You have these big brands. Some of them will be more of a franchise. Some will be a sort of sister school, very heavily overlooked by the school in the UK, or you know, wherever it's from. But again, you know, you're setting up this brand. People are buying into that brand. I guess from a parent's point of view is, am I getting the real deal?
Going to
And when I put my children in this school, you know, am I going to get the same results as I would say if I sent them to, you know, the original founding school? Again, and this is the same with Hong Kong international schools. You know, you've got your Malverns, your Shrewsburys. It's looking at, you know, 5-10 years down the line. I guess it's the faith that you put into it. So I'd say that's certainly interesting in terms of what's going on. Especially these tier 3 cities, tier 2, and sort of.
It's so interesting. And with regards to the curriculum, as you say, it depends, I suppose, on if it is franchised or if it's kind of overly seen as to how. But we're hoping that there'll be the international curriculum, like.
So I think in terms of if they're going with this international curriculum, then obviously they can accept then passports, students with passports that are international. If you're going with the local curriculum, you're sort of basically taking out any local student. So some schools have chosen to go with more sort of a local curriculum, but very much international flavour.
Okay.
And some have gone completely international. That
cool.
depends on the individual school.
Okay.
So it's interesting in terms of what types of students are going there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting. One of the interesting thing I think is the quality of educators that are coming over to these schools. So yes, we talk about the brands, but again, you have to have the goods to back it up. So
totally.
You know, as an example, I'll just give you an example. With Whittle, you know, we have, you know, you've got Jim Hawkins, who was the headmaster of Harrow in school in London. He's the global head of school heads. And you have Rhiannon Wilkinson, who is currently the headmistress of Wickham Abbey, UK. Wow. So you have two serious players in terms of education globally into that school as an example. So when you're considering, you know, sending your child to school, I mean, that's
really exciting. Yeah,
it's exciting.
Yeah.
So then it starts to change your mind in terms of you know, they're recruiting the best teachers.
I know
they've got a lot of money to throw at it.
So
not just Whittle, I'm talking all the schools.
All of them, yeah. I was going to say, how competitive is it? I'm assuming pretty competitive right now.
Yeah. You know, well, it's, you know, you're recruiting. I think, look, teachers also, you know that it's you know, it's a bit of a sweet deal in a way in terms of, you know, you're slogging away, and, you know, my mum's a teacher, you know, in the UK system, it's very long hours, and it certainly is still in Hong Kong. I know I used to do it.
Yeah.
But, you know, you do then have the pleasure of being in this, like, fantastic region, exciting opportunities.
Totally.
Often teachers get to move around the schools as well.
Yeah.
And it's great salary, you know.
Yeah.
It's
really good packages.
It's a really good package.
It's a good international teaching scene, right, to get into, and that's really nice. Yeah.
So, I mean, job-wise, it's certainly competitive,
It's
if you're a teacher.
Check it out.
I know,
yeah.
Get applying. But, you know, I think, look, for parents, certainly, again, I was in this Greater Bay Area, you know, I think it's going to be, you know, I know Hong Kong's like, you sort of think it's impossible, isn't it? You know, we sort of say, you know, I think watch this space in terms of schools like Wickham Abbey, you know, again, huge brand.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if Harrow opened there,
I know.
You know, in terms of competitive, let's look at it a different way.
Yeah.
You build a campus in Shenzhen, or say Zhuhai, with all this land, you know, you've got all this money.
Amazing facilities.
You know, amazing facilities, great educators. Then when you turn the tables and look back at Hong Kong, which of course, don't get me wrong, we have fantastic schools, but, you know,
there's things that you can. I know,
changes, you know?
And it's changing anyway, because the whole scene in Hong Kong has changed over the last couple of years with the influx of new schools as well. So that also changes. So it changes that market. So you can imagine what that's going to do in China too. But it's pretty exciting. So the Greater Bay Area, is that like a Silicon Valley vibe? Like it's kind of like the hot, places to be, but there's so much travel where you could still be based here. It's so easy to do like boarding school or
this is what we sort of, you know, when we talk to our parents, because, you know, essentially what we do is that we're not looking to place them into school just because we have a relationship with a school. That's, you know, completely against essentially all our principles. You know, you place a child into school because it's the right school for that child.
Yeah. Or
it could be that you need them to go on the right path to then get them into the eventual school, their desired school, so to speak.
Okay.
You know, but it's if you look at schools in Hong Kong, which again, there's some fabulous schools in Hong Kong, if you're having now, 10-15 minute train journey to Shenzhen, and your child's boarding, you know, you're living on Repulse Bay, wherever it may be, somewhere fabulous, are you going to send them to board, you know,
depending on the
in new territories,
I think
going to send them
exciting opportunities. Yeah.
You know, 10 minutes over the border to a school that's, say, twice the size, with a lot more really facilities. Cool, you know, and again, you know, lots of collaborations. And again, it's the money that's in these schools, and then the opportunity that comes with that money.
Yes, and the partnerships with where it takes them to the UK and the brand, what it does. It's so cool. So just a reminder, you're watching Little Steps Live, and today we are with Stephanie from Wright Wright Education. She's one of the co-founders there. They are an international education consultancy business, and we're picking her brains on just some local trends and things going on within the Chinese education system. It's really exciting. There's been a lot of press about it recently, so we just wanted to get Stephanie in to kind of just touch on, for those that are kind of of interested. So we wanted to share, keep you in the know, as we like to do. So we've just kind of been going over the private international and a bit of an overview. You can go back at any time to kind of watch those. But I wanted to finish off with the key trends and some innovations that are happening within the Chinese education. So feel free to ask us any questions, or maybe just send us some love, we can accept that. So in the key trends and innovations, what are the developments in disciplines such as languages, arts, sports, coding, that STEM thing? What's kind of happening along those lines?
I mean, look, let's bring it back to GA again. You essentially have Silicon Valley 2.0.
Yeah.
I mean, so many companies are now headquartered out of Shenzhen and all these other regions, and even if you go to the city, you're not just going there now for your knock of handbag. You're actually going to this amazing built-up international city. It's fantastic. And what you get there is that you get a lot of headquarters, people wanting to collaborate with children in the future.
Yeah.
With these schools, they want to bring their products into schools.
Yeah.
I know even with we often speak to British government here, the consulate and the Department for Investment and Trade, and even then we're encouraging sort of UK companies, tech companies, to bring their technology to Hong Kong schools and international schools in China, because there's a lot going on. These are the children who are going to be operating, inventing these wonderful things in the future that will, be completely unable to use.
Our technology earlier.
Exactly. And so I think that's something that is very exciting in terms of what they're able to add to the curriculum. So again, all this STEAM, this tech, this coding. One thing that's a passion of mine, we were talking about earlier, both our passion, obviously being loving the arts and performance. We were talking to Joanna Hotong, who's the owner of Kids Gallery, and she was saying how Arts Ed are opening in Shanghai with the support of Andrew Lloyd Webber. They're having sort of 2-3 wonderful theatres on the Bund, and then the Arts Ed school, in which the students who are training at Arts Ed then essentially, to put it in layman's terms, get first dibs at auditioning for the productions in these theatres. Now, I mean, wow, you'd kill for that in London, let alone, and I think what an exciting thing for me, which, again, I think it's unfair to say, people always focus on the academics in terms of China, but actually, there's some seriously talented children in terms of arts, theatre, dance, performance, whatever it may be, and what a great opportunity to have that available in China's capital.
Oh my word!
And again, looking at trends, are we going to get students from Hong Kong go to Arts Ed there?
Because of
are you going to get kids coming from London to go to Arts Ed there? I mean, if that's a first, if your first professional production is in in Phantom of the Opera or something, I don't know, then
why not?
It's very exciting. So that to me is especially interesting because just purely because I love performance and promoting the arts. Yeah, exactly. But
that's good to know that those collaborations is a clever way of being able to bring some of these areas to life within schools and stuff. So
and also that it's not just about, and we always hear about STEAM and STEM and coding, and that's great. But that's not some kids' passion or talent.
It's good to have sports, and good to have the
arts. Sports,
so how cool. So what do you think are the key challenges that China is facing with regards to the education system?
I think, it's, bringing back to this sort of piece thing we were talking about, I think it's well-being. I would say well-being, but also collaboration in the classroom. Now, I mean, even in Hong Kong, I sort of did my teacher training in a local Hong Kong school, Mandarin school, and, the way the system is operated, and it's not anywhere to do with the teachers, it's just what they have to do in terms of following the guidelines. There's little room to sort of have that collaboration, that sort of inquiry-based learning that the children in international schools are very fortunate to be able to have. A lot of kids do IB and that sort of stuff. And that's a challenge because, and again, this is when we talk to people sort of university level and then talk to businesses. Collaborating when you're in an office and with your co-workers, it can prove difficult. And it's basic things like social skills. Actually thinking, okay, well, we have a problem, so there's
it's not in the book. We need to put the book down, and we need to discover ways.
And when you talk about to employers and people in business, it's a problem that they face. We're talking about Hong Kong specifically, but we're sort of, putting that into the whole China sort of sphere. It's a problem. So and Hong Kong is obviously we're having more and more influence of Mandarin speakers, and obviously China, people sort of coming freely in and out of Hong Kong in terms of mainland China.
Yeah.
So it's about sort of, building those skills from, very early age. And I think that's something that I think
Could be
has quite a long way to go.
Yeah.
Certainly in terms of the local school.
Yeah.
Not to say that, things, again, as I said, are not being done, but I think that's
that
probably one of the
change
biggest
could be
challenges. I mean,
longer.
look, grades are great,
Yeah.
Yes, of course, there are going to be socioeconomic challenges. We can go very deep into this in terms of China and sort of economics. But look, on a surface level, I think that in terms of academics curriculum would probably be, I think, one of the greatest challenges. Is sort of
and it's a longer one too, because making changes in some of the bigger schools that have been going for a long time is so hard, right, to turn that ship.
No, of course.
But hopefully maybe the change within the international private scene will start to drive more awareness as well and filter down to make that kind of balance a bit better. And what are the trends that you think for Chinese outbound to boarding schools, university? What kind of trends?
Yes, I mean, look, UK, and this is what we see with our clients certainly, but when we speak to parents and just look at the stats, I mean, there's wonderful companies out there, research companies who are far more knowledgeable than me, I may add, and I do recommend you go and read these as well, because it's interesting, and this sort of, I think this ICS is a very good one. I recommend you sort of go and read, and it's, it gets more into the business aspect, but they're very, very good. UK boarding schools are always going to be very popular, and I think, children coming from China are now number one in terms of overseas foreign children. Yeah. People want the brand, and you're always going to have people go after the Taros of the world, of course. But look, very few get in because very few children in general get in. It's very, very hard academically. But it's also allowing them to sort of be in that sort of that environment, that UK-based environment, especially if they want to go to UK or US university. But also it's the UK, say, discussing UK, it's also the connections that you build. It's sort of, Juliette and I was saying that in the US it's all very much about your sort of your alumni in terms of university, but in the UK it's very much where did you go to boarding school, and everyone sort of that's how you build the connections, and those connections can be priceless. Okay. So I mean, I don't think it's going to change. I mean, we still get many requests. I'm sure every other agency does, consultancy does as well, for UK schools. But what we do find is that US universities are very popular. With not in terms of Hong Kong, as it's probably equal. Hong Kong obviously being former British colony, you do get a lot of
immediate
it's typically going to be British universities, but you do get a lot of US university requests in China for multiple reasons. And obviously there are some of the best universities in the world based in America, so of course. But also universities in China are very popular. These top universities, they're some of the best in the world as well. And actually what you find is a lot of universities in the UK and the US are now collaborating, or in fact have an actual campus or a base in within the region. Because obviously China has a lot of money for research. Right. And if you look at UK universities, particularly, I mean, especially this very, contentious moment. The research is, we're fantastic. Obviously being British, I mean, look, UK universities in terms of research are outstanding, but you need the funds, and also you need
China's
to be able to
just started growing some plants or whatever that have been successful in space. So there is some seriously good.
But I also so it's sort of also not overlooking these top Chinese universities. They want to go there, and also students from overseas want to go to Chinese universities.
Right. So that could be interesting to change the trends.
It's very interesting.
The educate and the international private schools could land up being, you might as well get a base, you can board yourself there.
Exactly.
Even see that going
and again,
straight.
It's that sort of, how do we see it changing? Well, as more and more of these schools open and grow, are the students going to be, staying in these schools, then going to school in China? Are they going to, stay and then go overseas? Or, as they typically do in Hong Kong, they're going to stay till 11 or 13 and then go to the UK school. We don't know yet. We don't know.
That's
because it's still
not there. Seeing.
So, again, I think, looking at 5 years, 10 years down the line, it's going to be so interesting
to look back and say, where are those trends take?
And also what happens with Hong Kong, how that's going to change.
How does it affect?
How is it going to affect, GBA in 5 to 10 years' time, what's that going to look like with Hong Kong as part of it?
That's so exciting. So I was going to ask if actually from a question perspective, but what are there any key differences between Hong Kong private school and the private school from that will be based in China? Like, will there be any key differences?
It depends. I mean, firstly, obviously curriculum. So it depends if that school is,
yes, like you mentioned before,
providing that sort of Chinese-based curriculum or
right.
an element, elements of it. Differences, well, space. Number one. I mean, and again, there is no space in Hong Kong. It's nothing to do with it's not the school's fault. Every school in Hong Kong opens would love to have acres and acres.
Oh, no.
They can't. So space is going to be a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And that goes to, I think that's things like sports. Okay. Yeah. So it means that you've got like multiple fields to run around in. And then also, I mean, look, you're going to have a different student demographic.
Yeah.
So it's going to look differently. Although it's changing in Hong Kong anyway. Expats getting smaller and smaller, so, and we do have a, increasing influx of mainland Chinese wanting to go to school in Hong Kong or live in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So, if you start to look at schools in Hong Kong about their demographic, they're changing. Yeah. And actually they're altering, sort of their curriculum to, parents certainly want a lot more Mandarin.
Yep.
So a lot of them are sort of catching on and saying, actually, well, yeah, we need to improve our Mandarin or add a lot more Mandarin, or certainly new schools that are opening are doing a lot more Mandarin as opposed to sort of, your 2 lessons a week or something like that. And the style of learning. So yes, there are some obvious differences. Again, it's, a case of sort of wait and see, are Hong Kong schools going to be left behind? And are they going to have to catch up with these big competitors just across the border?
Yeah,
maybe they're going to have to sort of up their game.
When the demographics have been a big high influence coming to Hong Kong, but if schools are then available in China, they won't need to. So then that can also change. Yeah. I think the next 5 years are going to be, as you say, pretty interesting to watch and to see this growth and to see how it affects both the Chinese market and Hong Kong.
Well, I think it's interesting because obviously we speak to a lot of admissions teams, headmasters, and obviously then of course our parents, which are most important for us. And typically when you look at admissions in the past in Hong Kong, it's sort of in a lot of schools. Some schools are very focused on sort of having that sort of international look in terms of students, and it's like, well, times are changing. Yeah. It's forget about your sort of every child from every nation. That's not what it's like anymore. So but that's exciting. Yeah. Embrace where we are culturally in Hong Kong, and I think again, as long as they're moving forward with that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so we'll watch the space. I was going to ask, Wright and Wright Education, so how far do you help with the application process?
Yeah, I mean, all the way. Okay. Some parents often, I think in Hong Kong, there are some, fabulous, sort of consultancies in Hong Kong that help with Hong Kong schools. Typically people just want some advice. And it's the same, I'm sure you've had millions of questions. It's like, which kindergarten will get me into the primary school I want to go to, and the right, or even I have parents with 2-year-olds who are like, they are going to Ivy League, so now which route do I need to sort of like, but it's not a stupid question, because actually, if you're thinking, okay, Ivy League, maybe we want to focus on American-based curriculum. There are very few schools in Hong Kong that have American-based curriculum, but of course, British curriculum can also put you down that path.
So there's different ways.
Are you staying in Hong Kong? Are you going overseas?
I know.
I mean, there's so it's not stupid. Actually, I always think work backwards is what I say to parents. So we do help with everything. It's Hong Kong schools, like I said, UK schools. In fact, applications in Hong Kong are 1,000 times more complicated and time-consuming than the UK. UK is typically a one-pager.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Fill your information. Obviously, UK, then you have to do sort of particularly UCASETs. And it's sort of getting around that process to make sure that your child is sort of getting into the right school. Okay. Also, if you don't know the UK system, it's making sure that you have people like, myself or Juliet, who know the school systems. And also, again, they change. People always focus on league tables. Please don't focus on league tables. Yeah. What's going to be right for that child? Forget brands. What is right for that child? Yeah. So, it's just about sort of using, for us, using our knowledge in terms of being educators. Yeah. Juliet's, a parent herself sending her boys to, boarding school in the UK. But then also listening to what parents want here. Parents, want very different things. Expat parents want different things, Hong Kong Chinese, and then mainland Chinese. So it's about sort of, tailoring our services to that climate, but also giving them sort of unbiased sort of professional advice. I'm not trying to send them to sort of
just because,
any old school, because what's the point?
Yeah.
We're sort of doing a disservice to that family.
Perfect. Cool. It's been super interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us pick your brains. Thank you guys. You've been watching Little Steps live, and we've just been touching on some of the changes and new trends that are happening within the Chinese education system. Some really cool brands that are opening up, and the areas of change, and even our links from Hong Kong, but kind of looking around at the longer kind of, as you say, going backwards. So looking at kind of where you want, but from university back. I know education and systems within Asia are so interesting. So thank you very much, and can be complicated. So it's always we need advice. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, if you're watching this at any time, please shoot them over on the comments, and we'll always ask Stephanie to get back to us with any answers. Just want to thank you guys for joining us today, and to be back for 2019. And be sure to check out our events page on Facebook. We will be back on January the 30th with Dr. Adler. We love him, and we're going to be talking about anxiety with kids, which I think will be a fantastic session. So don't miss that on January 30th. As I say, if you see it on the Facebook Lives event, you click interested, that will remind you, because it's a couple of weeks away. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
See you.